We all try and keep track of moments in our lives, but often these moments vanish. Now, some of them have been recovered, and we're about to get real lost. Hey everybody, John Tenney here. Welcome to the 6th episode of Real Lost, the podcast where we listen to the strange reel-to-reel tapes which I have collected over the past 25 or 26 years. This episode was meant to be the shortest episode because the reels were newly acquired by me, which is something kind of strange for this podcast because I've owned most of these reels for 25 years. So to come into the possession of some has made this podcast strange. So, to get a little inside this podcast has been weird from the get-go, weirder than I expected it to be. We can start with the fact that I was grabbing random reel-to-reel tapes from this stack that I have. None of them are labeled unless they have the date on them or something like that, but I don't know what's on them. And so the first two episodes, I pull these random tapes out, and the first episode was a man getting a channeling session, and then strangely and synchronistically enough, the second episode was the man's wife getting a channeling session done. So that was just kind of strange, coincidental type of thing that happened. But to let you in a little deeper as to the strangeness, I missed a couple weeks of doing this podcast because I had a lot of family stuff happening. Long story short, within like 2 or 3 weeks, my father fell, broke his hip, my cat died, my mom cut the back of her leg open, my sister broke her foot, my parents had to stay with me for a month. It was just this like huge collection of things going on, and I didn't really know at the time. I was like, what is happening? Like, why are all these things going on? And true to form, the weirdness of the universe portrays itself in a very strange and unreliable and unrelenting fashion. So I knew that something must be happening because all these things are going on, and I can't help but think that this podcast is somehow involved in it. Through a series of events that all stemmed from these kind of problems that I had over the past month, I ended up coming into the possession of these 2 tapes that you will hear in this episode. Each reel contains only about 2 minutes of recording on each reel, but it's looped for 45 minutes on each reel. So you will only hear, 1 2-minute segment from one and 1 2-minute segment from the other. I'm not going to play all 45 minutes of it, the same 1 or 2-minute loop over and over again. But the short story behind this is when I was a little kid going up north with my parents, there was this tourist attraction that was called Mystery Ridge. Now, Mystery Ridge closed when I was about 11. I never got a chance to go to it, but I had always seen a postcard that my uncle had, and I'd always been fascinated with this place. And then as I got older, I kind of stopped thinking about it, got into my late teens, early 20s, and started investigating weird stuff. I became fascinated with trying to find this place. Knowing that it had been shut down and that it was abandoned, I knew that I probably would never find it, or if I found it, it would be in complete and total disrepair. I did end up discovering the location of the place, and I was super excited. Of course, it had been completely kind of torn down and abandoned and had fallen into disrepair and ruin, so that I was kind of heartbroken about that. That, again, this is in the early 90s. And I would drive by it every now and then and just think randomly about it. Now we bounce forward to 2016, and I do this reel-to-reel podcast with you guys, Real Lost, and I'm going through all these reel-to-reel tapes. All of this weird stuff happens with my parents. I don't know why. And then on the trip up to my parents' house to finally drop them off and deliver them back to their home because they're feeling good and everything's going fine, I come into possession of 2 reel-to-reel tapes, which are labeled Mystery Ridge. And these are the tapes, and you will hear what's on them. And then on the other side of listening to them, we'll discuss exactly how strange this has now really gotten. So I hope you enjoy this kind of trip back to a very strange place called Mystery Ridge.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Mystery Ridge.
You are about to undergo one of the most unusual experiences of your entire life. Some of you may have already felt the effect of the area as you walked across our parking lot. This site was discovered while searching for mineral deposits. In this survey, many scientific theories were uncovered that portray the unusual phenomena you are about to see.
Although designed primarily for your entertainment, you will see many of these scientific theories illustrated here, some of which are studied and applied in our leading universities.
We have been unable to determine what upheavals in the bowels of the earth Mother Nature wrought to produce this strange and baffling gravitational effect.
Many theories have been offered by previous visitors to Mystery Ridge. Some say it must have been caused by an earthquake. Some say it is magnetized mineral deposit, while others have just sworn off drinking and let it go at that.
As your guide takes you through Mystery Ridge, you will notice a strong force that seems to affect your equilibrium. We urge you to follow instructions as you view the demonstration. Your guide is now ready to escort you. Please follow him.
You are about to undergo one of the most unusual experiences of your entire life. Some of you may have felt the effect of the area as you walked across the parking lot. This site was discovered while searching for mineral deposits. In the survey, many scientific theories were uncovered that portrayed the unusual phenomenon you are about to see. Although designed primarily for your entertainment, you will see many of these scientific theories illustrated here, some of which are studied and applied in our leading universities. We have been unable to determine what upheavals in the bowels of the earth Mother Nature may have wrought to produce this strange and baffling gravitational effect. Many theories have been offered by previous visitors to Mystery Ridge. Some say that it must have been caused by an earthquake. Some say it is magnetized mineral deposits, while others have changed their drinking habits and let it go at that. As your guide takes you through Mystery Ridge, you'll notice a strong force that seems to affect your equilibrium. We urge you to follow instructions as you view the demonstrations. Your guide is now ready to escort you. Please follow him.
So there you have it, back from the glorious days, probably the first one, since they're the same reading, just with different readers and different backgrounds. The first one is probably from the early 60s. The next one is probably from the either early 70s or late 60s. But there you go, the original recordings as heard by the people who visited the site Mystery Ridge. Now, if I sound like I'm excited or nervous, or I'm talking too fast, or I've been just trying to capture my words properly in this episode, it's because I really have been a little freaked out. I do these episodes late at night, and my mind is going a million miles an hour. I've been drinking coffee all day and reading about Bigfoot and ghosts and UFOs and the normal things that I read about. So it blew my mind, first of all, when I was putting this episode together, even trying to conceptualize how all of the events from putting this podcast together in the first place months ago to my parents going through all this stuff, which would lead them to my house where they would have to stay. I'd have to get up north at a specific time to get a hold of this tape, which is a reel-to-reel, which kind of demands to be played on this show. And all of those events that would have to coalesce to make it happen were really kind of freaking me out. And so to take a break from doing this episode of this podcast, I was listening to an online radio show. As two of my friends were being interviewed, Greg Newkirk and his wife, Dana Newkirk. And I was listening and enjoying that and kind of pulling myself away from the high strangeness of thinking about all of the synchronistic events that would have to happen for these events to have worked out for this podcast. And it might not seem a lot to you, but it was really kind of messing with my mind. Anyway, after their interview was over, for whatever reason, it was 3 o'clock in the morning, I just continued to let the radio play, even though I didn't want to hear what was playing next, because there's just another radio show coming on, and I have no vested interest in it. No one I know is going to be on it. And that is when the next program started. And this is what I heard.
And good morning, everyone, once again, and welcome to another episode.
Yes, that's right. The radio show that came on after the radio show that I was listening to relax, to stop thinking about the synchronicities of finding these reel-to-reel tapes, that radio show, that next radio show's opening music is the background music from one of the Mystery Ridge reel-to-reel tapes. So within a matter of 4 days of getting these tapes, never having heard them, and listening to them for the first time, deciding to do this episode, and then getting freaked out, thinking about all the coincidences involved with the reel-to-reel tapes and getting them in my hands, to relax, I listened to a radio show and then accidentally or just for whatever reason, let the radio continue to play, and I'm re-exposed to the opening music from the Mystery Ridge reel-to-reel tapes. I was flipping out. I'm still flipping out thinking about it. I don't know what this podcast is doing. I don't know what it's meant to be doing. I don't know what these reel-to-reel tapes are meant to be doing, but I'm supposed to be doing this podcast. I'm glad that someone's listening to it. I'm glad I have a way to document it. I hope you will continue to listen, because who and the fuck knows what's going to happen next. If you have any comments, questions, suggestions, or desires, send them to me at john@weirdlectures.com. Leave a comment on the page underneath the episode. Leave a comment or rate us on iTunes. That does something. Listen to us on Stitcher. Tell your friends about it. Go to the Facebook page. It's facebook.com/reallost, and you can go to the website, which is reallost.com, which you should know if you're listening to this podcast. What is happening with this show? What is going on? What unseen force is manipulating this show? Whether or not this show becomes any more interesting, at least it will be a recorded and documented evidence of when I started to actually lose my mind. Have a good week. I'll talk to you next week, maybe. Don't get lost.